Hello? Hello?
Test, test,
Is it
test.
on? I don't think it's on. Okay, ready? Oh my gosh. Hello? 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 All right. All right. We'd like to call the October 3rd City Council meeting to order. All right, we're going to start our meeting now, and we're going to have our opening by Michelle Barber.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful to be gathered here this evening. We pray for thy spirit and guidance and appreciation for the wonderful state and country that we live in. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We have a lot of great presentations this evening, and the first is a proclamation declaring October 6th through the 12th, 2019 as Fire Prevention Week. And I'm just going to read that. Whereas planning, preparedness, and situational awareness are critical to surviving a home fire, that is the message behind this year's Fire Prevention Week. Not every hero wears a cape. Plan and practice your escape. All right. Whereas the Kaysville City Fire Department is dedicated to the safety and security of everyone living, working, and visiting in our city. Fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally. According to recent research, U.S. home fires resulted in 3,400 civilian deaths in 2017, and the fire death rate was 20% higher than 2016. However, working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. Today's home fires burn faster than ever. In a typical home fire, residents may have as little as 1 to 2 minutes to escape safely from the time the smoke alarm sounds. Kaysville's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through the prevention and protection education. Correspondingly, Kaysville personnel are responsive to public education measures and are able to make action to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas this year's fire prevention campaign includes the following recommendations: practice home fire drill twice a year, conduct one a night and one in the day, have a home escape plan, practice it and keep your family safe, install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the home. Listen for the sound of the smoke alarm, and when alarm sounds, respond by going outside immediately to the designated meeting place. Once you get outside, stay outside. Never go back inside a burning building. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Katie Witt, Kaysville City Mayor, and the Kaysville City Council members do hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th, 2019 as Fire Prevention Week throughout Kaysville City, Utah. I encourage all people in Kaysville to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out, in the event of a fire or other emergencies, respond when smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support our open house on October 9th, 2019. Chief.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Council members, city leaders, ladies and gentlemen of Kaysville, thank you for your time tonight. Just to let you know what Proclamation is all about, since 1922, the National Fire Protection Association has sponsored the public awareness of Fire Prevention Week. In 1925, everybody hear me? President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed Fire Prevention Week as national observance, making it the longest running public health observance in our country. During Fire Prevention Week, children, adults, and teachers learn how to stay safe in case of fires. Firefighters provide life-saving public education in an effort to drastically decrease casualties by fire. Fire Prevention Week is observed each year during the week of October 9th in commemoration of the Great Chicago Fire, which began on October 8th, 1871, and caused devastating damage. The horrific conflagration killed more than 250 people, left 100,000 people homeless, and destroyed more than 17,400 structures and burned more than 2,000 acres of its land. So I appreciate it, ma'am, and
thank you.
If you would sign.
And if we can, take a picture presenting this award. Come on forward. Thank you so much. And we want to especially thank our firefighters recently with our wildfire up on the mountain, and just appreciate how well trained our people are. And thank you, Chief Erickson, for your leadership. So thank you. Now we are going to have the Blue Line ladies come forward to make a presentation. And if you could tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about your organization.
I'm Cheyenne, this is Lydia. We are part of a nonprofit called the Blue Line Ladies. We raise money to provide better protective equipment for police officers. Right now, our goal is to provide every officer in the state of Utah with a trauma plate. This plate goes inside of their ballistic vest and just adds more protection. These plates protect from AR-15, AK-47, more rounds than just the regular ballistic vest. The regular ballistic vest usually only protects from handgun rounds. So this little bit of protection makes the officers a lot more safer and able to go home every night to their families. We both are police wives, and this is a very important cause for us, and we're just grateful that we have the support to be able to do things like this.
Thank you so much. And Chief Oberg, are you here? If you could say a couple of things.
I just want to tell you I met with them about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, about this project, and I know it took a lot of fundraising, a lot of work on their part, very selfless and very nice. Not all the time do our officers feel like somebody really cares about their well-being. So it's really nice and refreshing to have them extend that hand and put in this work for these officers. And so I just have a couple little tokens for them of appreciation, a certificate and a couple patches, but really a lot of work and a job well done, so I appreciate that.
All right. And if we could, we'd love to have a picture with you. Can we? All right. Thanks.
I sent them to him correctly, so it's okay.
Okay, it's a big night tonight because we are now going to swear in our new Youth City Council. I don't have their names. Do you have their names? I'm going to have Michelle Barber read their names, and as you hear your name, if you'd come line up in the front, that would be great.
All right, we have Eliza Stredbeck, Camille Jepson, Soraya Francis, Ashley Alvord, Marcus Hayden, Coleman Stinger, Claire Scott, Cooper Davis, Gracie Rasmussen, David Hayes, and one member who is not here this evening, Kate Bowers.
We are excited that you have chosen to serve, and we are looking forward to seeing everything that you accomplish. I would like you to raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, come on up. This is mega council. When you add the regular council and the youth city council, it's mega council. All right. And I'm not the shortest one. Budge up.
And thank you to our mayor, Marcus Hayden. So we have our own mayor as well. So thank you, Marcus.
And we also want to thank the Youth City Council leaders, the mentors that help. It's a I know it's a labor of love, and we appreciate that. And Councilmember Barber, thank you for your service there as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, we've put this off as long as possible. Gary Hatch is going to give his report on the power department. It's his favorite night.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. There are two items here tonight that I'd like to report on. One is our annual report that we put out every year. And then the second one would be an update on the AMI project that we started last year. I'd like to tell you where we're at on that. I'll briefly go through this report since it's pretty much the same as last year. Numbers change a little bit, but if you would just go ahead and click through. Thank you. This first page, I also would like to mention too, this report is on the Kaysville City website underneath the power department, so all this information you can find there too. This here just indicates how many employees they have and what the job titles are and what their duties are. The second page here is power system report. It tells the customer, how many residents, meters we have out there, commercial, industrial, and street lights and stuff like that. The next page is our growth. Last year, we increased a little bit too, along with this year. This year, our customer increase was 1.6%. Our system growth was 3.6%. And our system energy growth actually went down to 1.22%. The reasoning why that is decreased in the system energy growth is that's due to weather, usage, how they conserve energy conservation, energy efficient appliances, and the time of year when they and how they use it. So that, and also solar is a factor in there too. So
that's good.
Solar does knock it down a little bit for what the usage is for the year.
All right, so our goal is to do better next year, right?
That our goal is to, yes.
Do better next year.
We will try.
Percent decrease. Better than 1.22%.
Yeah.
All right, got it.
The next page on this is types of customers we have and their loads and the percentage of the load. So residential is the mainly source that the power needs are for. So we only have one industrial, so that's very small. The next page is customers sales by class, residential, commercial, industrial, and it goes through kilowatts, kilowatt hours, and revenue. The next page is just a description of our system. The numbers pretty much don't change other than the distribution line. That number does change throughout the year due to new subdivisions coming in online. Then we have the next page is the 5 largest loads. That's just giving an idea of what they spend and what they are. They're pretty big loads. So we just like to put that in there just to give people an idea of what our 5 biggest loads are. Next page is our achievements that we put in every year. I did mention a while back ago our RP3 Gold Award. We're pleased about that. And also we received an IPSA Safety Award too. That we're very happy about that too from Intermountain Public Power Superintendent Association. Next page is historical notes going back 10 years. Just seeing what was used, kilowatt hours used back in 2008, just FYI if you're interested. Next page is our outage report. We did decrease this year, or last year, 2018, on our outages compared to 2017, which is good. We still want to get that number lower, so we're continually to improve our system, add, we call it bird guard, but it's an insulated protective equipment we put on to help reduce outages. And then the last page is our system reliability report. This report comes from APPPA. They give us the numbers. We give to them our outages that we had. They calculate the numbers, and this is what they reported back to us, our percentage on that. That concludes that portion of it, of the annual report. Now I'd like to talk about our AMI project. As of today, we have 6,525 meters installed. We roughly have about 3,500 left to install. Last council meeting, when we started this program, we were anticipating being done by September of this year. Due to workload, we were unable to meet that schedule. So we were hoping we're anticipating next month or so we'll be able to get back to installing meters. The majority of those meters, or quite a few of the meters, are businesses, so that might take some time to schedule and work around their schedule so we're not interrupting or affecting them at all. So that was a real quick, short report.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Any questions for Gary?
No.
All right. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. We appreciate it. I know it's over and above your regular chores, so it's really appreciated. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All
We
right.
gonna take a picture with Gary or not? I joke, I'm kidding.
No applause for Gary?
No applause. Yes. Applause. Very good. All right. Okay, any declarations of conflicts of interest?
None.
None? All right. Okay, consent items.
I'll make a motion that we approve consent items A through D as presented on agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember DeCare and seconded by Councilmember Barber. Any comments? All right, let's go to a vote.
Substitute motion.
Okay,
A motion that we approve all but C, remove C for discussion.
okay. Motion dies for lack of a second. Back to the original motion. Let's go to Councilmember Adams.
It's a $57,000 change order.
Is that yay or nay?
I want to talk about it.
I'm sorry you didn't get a second. All right. Okay. All right, Councilmember Page.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 3-1. Okay. All right. Action items. All right, we're going to go first to an ordinance repealing and reenacting 7-4 of the Kaysville Municipal Code regarding open burning. Nick Mills.
Mayor, members of the City Council, it's good to be with you this evening. We discussed this briefly at our last council meeting, I believe, maybe 2 ago. This is an ordinance that really kind of clarifies what we would allow for fires. It allows for campfires and recreational fires, but it does give some guidance on what can be burned in those and the circumstances under which they should have an open fire. So I'm happy to entertain any questions. I've worked with Chief Erickson on this, and we both feel like this is an appropriate change that will help them as they go out and educate the public about what can and can't be done. The old ordinance had some, it was a little vague and unclear what residents could and couldn't do.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody signed up to speak to this?
I'll grab that. Hang on.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we do have one person signed up to speak to this, and it is Zane Larson. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's go to questions from council. Any questions about this from council members? Councilmember Barber.
Nick, you may speak to this. The high-level changes that residents should be aware of, and then the procedure we're going to go about educating residents about them. Communications.
Yeah. I guess generally I anticipate that this will kind of be education by complaint driven. We'll go out as we see a fire. If it's reported, we'll educate. We're not looking to use this, and as I've spoken with Chief Erickson, we're not looking to use this to really hammer people, but we would like it to be a little safer. I think the biggest high-level change, you can still have a fire in your backyard and roast marshmallows and hot dogs on the weekend and that kind of stuff. But probably the biggest change is that the materials that you can burn are a little bit more limited. You should just be burning clean wood, wood you buy from a convenience store you get out of your orchard or backyard, and not stuff that's treated or painted and stuff like that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing no more questions, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to approve action item A.
Okay,
Second?
it's been moved by Councilmember Adams and seconded by Councilmember DeCare. Any comments? No comments, we'll go to a vote. Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay, the next item is temporary construction easement agreement with the Boyack property at 723 South Angel Street. Shane.
Thanks, Mayor, City Council. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to review the agreement that's in your packet. This would be an agreement with one of the property owners there on Angel Street for a temporary construction easement that would allow us the opportunity to continue the project to backfill both on the city side and the resident side of that particular property. The pipe has been buried in the ground, and so this would kind of level the ground, make it ready for curb gutter and sidewalk, which is anticipated to come in around spring of next year. So verbally, we have an agreement with this property owner and contingent upon your action tonight. So if you have any questions, we're here to answer those.
Okay. All right. I have one person signed up to speak to this, Zane Larson. Okay. All right. We'll go to questions from council. Questions from council at this time. Councilmember Adams.
Mr. Scott, where is that pipe buried? Is it in the road or is it in the ditch? The original plan called for the pipe to be buried in the ditch.
Right. It is in the road. I don't know exactly where, but it's in the road.
Okay, so per this agreement, I read through it, it discusses that we are piping the ditch. So are you running down the road, along all the other properties that you've decimated and then jetting out and piping the ditch? Are you diverting the creek back into the ditch via piping, or is that a typo in your documentation?
I'm not really sure what your question is. I don't have the plans here with me, but the water ran in the ditch traditionally. That water is now in a pipe, and that pipe is now in, I think, just the east side of the road.
Sure. Councilmember Adams, I think if I understand your question correctly, though, it doesn't jut out around this property and I could be wrong here, but I think as Mr. Belknap looked at engineering it, it just made sense to just run it under the city's right-of-way, the full length of this project.
Right, so the question is, your documents say that you're piping the ditch. The pipe is out in the roadway now, correct? For the full length of this project. There's no pipe going into the ditch, right?
I guess all I know is that there was a ditch there, and now that water that was in the ditch is now in a pipe, and that pipe is in the road.
Okay, so would you correct the documents, Mr. Mills, that the ditch is not being piped? The pipe is going in the roadway now.
Yeah, I think what that is maybe a difference of semantics, because I think the ditch in a sense is piped, in that the water that was flowing in the ditch is now running down the pipe. So the concern that we were worried about has been addressed, and I think it's just a matter of semantics.
So what is the cost, Mr. Scott, that it cost us to switch that entire project to having the ditch or the piping go out into the roadway? Are we incurring, specifically on the construction side, we'll get to maybe some of the costs incurred from the political side, but are there change orders that have come about due to shifting the entire scope of work on this project, which we have not been privy to?
I don't know that there's any change orders that you haven't been privy to, no.
Well, you just approved a $56,000 change order tonight because the original project didn't call for this piping to go into Angel Street.
Right.
It called for the piping to go out in the ditch. So we just did a $56,000 change order tonight.
So now you're privy to that change order.
Excellent. Okay, what else? How much, are there any other extras that has cost us?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, so with regards to this temporary construction easement, it's coming at a cost of $35,000, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's just access to the to be able to perform the work on the project?
Correct, for a temporary construction easement.
Okay, so 35 grand for one home, and then how much are you paying out in property? Because we're going to take some property too, right?
No, we are not taking any property.
There's no property.
No.
So $35,000. So how much did this cost on all the other properties for the TCE?
I don't have all those numbers with me. They varied by, there's 3 properties that have signed that temporary construction easement.
So is this project still in litigation, or is it past that point?
It is in litigation, yes.
It is still in litigation?
Yes.
So what's the general overall feel of all the other homeowners down there? Are things doing better?
I couldn't speak to that.
You can't speak to that?
No. I haven't spoken to those property owners.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Barber.
Shane, just a clarifying question on the timeline for the ditch being piped, but also the sidewalks. It was hard to hear you from the microphone.
Yeah, I think Mr. Belknap has discussed with the property owners when the appropriate time would be to add sidewalk once everything's level. I think his recommendation is that we wait until the property and the soil has some time to settle over the winter. I think there's some general agreement with those property owners. I couldn't speak to that specifically, but so I think early spring, we'd intend on putting that sidewalk in.
Thank you. I just know those of us who have seen this project for a long time have been waiting for that piece, and so we'll wait until spring so it can be done right, but we're looking forward to it being done.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay, we have had questions. Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move that we grant temporary construction easement agreement with the Boyack property on 723 South Angel Street.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember DeCare, seconded by Councilmember Barber. Any comments? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. Councilmember DeCare.
Aye.
On the grounds that I'm not convinced that people have been treated equitably, it's an A.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-1. Okay, we are going to preliminary plat approval for the Green Manor subdivision at 1576 West, 200 North, Privet Barrow. And I will need the sign-up sheet for that, please. All right, Lyle.
Thank you, Mayor. With your permission, as usual, since I show the pretty pictures, I'll remain here seated, if that's okay. Just as a reminder of the council, as a beginning on this, the location is directly west of the Smith's Marketplace on the north side of 200 North Street.
Lyle, can you be more clear?
Yes. Better? Okay, thank you, Councilman. So the property just located west of the Smith's Marketplace on the north side of 200 North is something you'll recognize from a recent process where the council reviewed a rezone request and development agreement. During that process, the R2 zoning designation was given for the property. We looked at a development. In fact, this is the concept at the time. that showed 21 single-family homes on the property and some common open space type subdivision. With the zoning in place, the applicant developer has gone forward on some additional detail and design work with the preliminary plat, showing the connection to the trail, the access across from the Mountain Vista subdivision with the center island median, indicates how some of the subdivision would look up against 200 North Street, where some of the common areas would be for an HOA to maintain some landscaping up against the fence, and that would be what you view from the street. We see the plat here that resembles the landscape concept, the general circulation, ultimately to provide building pads for homes such as you see here, which were, again, this comes from an exhibit from the development agreement. Staff's finding that everything's consistent with what was provided at that time of the rezone, and that it meets those requirements of the development agreement. The Planning Commission heard this item for the preliminary plat consideration at their most recent Planning Commission meeting, and did unanimously recommend approval of the plat as proposed to the City Council. I'll close my comments at that and be happy to take any questions, and simply remind the Mayor and Council also that the applicant is here as well if you have questions of them.
I think I would like to invite the applicant to come and say anything that they'd like to say about this.
Phil Holland, thank you, Mayor. More than anything, I'm here to answer any questions that might come up. We are consistent, just as Lyle said, with the development agreement that was in front of you recently. And more than that, I don't have much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go to our public hearing. Zane Larson.
Thank you. As you said, my name is Zane Larson. I would want to apologize. As you can see, I signed up on every item, but it's because of the nature of the sign-up form, because I don't always know if I have something to say until I hear it discussed, and I wish that the public discussion would come after the City Council's discussion so we could comment on what you guys were talking about. But I do have a comment about this. I find it odd, like city ordinances, is that secondary buildings can only take up to 20% of property, but the primary building can almost fill the entire thing, and but someone can't go put 35% of their property with like a big garage or shop for themselves. I find that, I don't know, it's just odd, inconsistent is the word I'm looking for, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Questions from council? Any questions for council? Councilmember Barber.
If you come back. Thanks.
Oh, I should have invited you to I'm trying to pattern what our planning commission does, and they'll have the applicant come up, public hearing, applicant come back. So any follow-up?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
My question's the same as when you were here last time about the easement. You were making sure that you got approval to put the parking stalls in that area, and as well as trees. If you could just speak to what you found from there.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think, that fuel line has crossed hands over the last month twice. Yeah. So the current owner has reviewed this exact plan and will approve it. They'll have to sign the plat as part of that easement, but they have seen this, and I could get written approval from them. But anecdotally, yes, they're okay with this plan.
And I just had a couple questions from residents who were asking about how close the trees were going to be to the easement and if that was okay. I didn't know the answer to that question, so.
Yeah, I think for the sake of when that open space goes in, we're going to try to stay, you can see the trees that are there. We're going to stay away from that pipeline,
okay,
just for our own sake.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, no more questions. I'd entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move that we grant preliminary plat approval for Green Manor subdivision at 1576 West, 200 North, Privet Barrow.
It's Been moved by Councilmember DeCare, seconded by Councilmember Page. Any comments? All right, we'll go to a vote. Councilmember Adams.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1. Thank you. Next, we're going to a resolution establishing fiber revenue parameters.
Mayor, City Council, last meeting,